Hey, so tonight I'm going to go over some basic array methods in JavaScript. We're going to do map, filter, and reduce. And each one of those iterates over an array and changes it. And they return a new array based on the result of that function. So we're going to start with map. I am sharing the screen. Let's see. Yeah, it's sharing the screen, right? Yeah, okay, just double checking. Don't want to record nothing. All right, so I'm sharing this photo because I think that visuals are really helpful. So with map, you're going to go through an array, and this array has a bunch of squares in it. And squares are different colors. And we're going to map through each of them, and the square will become a circle based on what we do in our function. And so here are our colorful circles coming at the other end. So let's do this in code. First of all, we need an array. And let's just do something easy. We'll get some numbers 1 through 10. And I'm going to do this in a function. Now, usually here we'll do something like R or array. Sometimes this can get confusing when you reuse a word. You start to think maybe this R is the same as that R, but you could literally put anything here because it's just a placeholder. So we're going to call it popsicle just to prove my point. So we're going to go through each thing in this holder called popsicle. We're going to map through it. And for each, well, what these really are numbers. So for each number, I'm going to do number times 2. So we're just going to go through each one of these numbers and we're going to multiply it by 2. So that what comes out is that array that has been changed. Each item in the array has been changed to be multiplied by 2. So we're going to do double. And now this is where it matters. This ARR has to be referring to this variable up here, or this array. That does matter. Okay, so let's save that. And now we've mapped through and doubled everything in our array. And that's how the map function works. And it can obviously become more complicated than that, but I just wanted to go over the basics of, what map is and what it does. And what we've been doing in class with map is generally mapping through a bunch of information and then showing each piece on a web page. And so that's how we've been using it, but it's the same concept of going through each one and doing something. All right, so that is map. So next I want to do filter, and a filter creates a new array by removing elements that don't belong. So I'm going to create an array of interesting words. So great, cool, smart, and exuberant. Splendiferous. I think that's how you spell it. And this word that I don't know, I looked it up, but I needed a word that was ridiculous. So perspicacious. I'm not smart enough for that word. If you know what that is, that will be a funny joke to you. All right. Now, this is what we're going to do. So we want to filter. notation here. This one's filter. We want to filter through this array, but we only want certain pieces of it. Just like over here in this visual, we've got a square, a circle, two more squares, right? So there's something that doesn't belong. And clearly, you know, one of these things is not like the other. So you filter through and you say, I want just this thing, just the square. And filter will get you just the square. So it's not going to change our array. Well, it will change it to include only the things that you want it to. So let's filter through these words, because some of these words are like way too big for me. Like I said, I don't even know how to pronounce that last one. So we're going to filter through it, and we're going to say if the word length is greater than 6, no, is less than 6. We don't want the big ones, we want the little ones. If the word length is less than 6, then it is an acceptable word that I understand. So we're gonna just grab those words. And let's see if we get our not elite words out of that. Great, cool, smart. There they are. So we filtered out the ridiculous words and just got our normal words. And that is one example of filter. Another one would be, let's say that we really like our array up here of 1 to 10. We want to use that. But here's the thing, is that we want them separated. We want evens and odds, and not just, you know, this big old, like we need to segregate them into evens and odds. So what we're going to do is create a function that will filter out the evens and odds. So we're going to take in this array, which we will not call popsicle this time. And we're going to say, okay, so we want evens, but in order to get the evens, we got to filter this array, right? We got to filter out, or well, just pick the evens and filter out the rest. So we're going to go, this is my number. Why does it keep popping up all this random stuff? Stop it. You might just have to deal with that because I don't know how to change it. So we're going to go through each number in this array, and if the number modulus 2 is equal to 0, then we're keeping it, right? Because if modulus 2 is like, I'm not going to explain this very well. It like breaks it down. And if it gets down to 0, you know it's even. I know this is the worst explanation of this. Hopefully you know what modulus does. I think it's just like continually dividing it down by 2. And so therefore it would be 0 if it was an even number. I apologize for not having a better explanation of that right now. But for our odds, we're going to want to filter through it and just keep the odds. So we're filtering through each number. And for each one, if the number modulus 2 is not equal to 0, then clearly it's going to be odd, right? And so what we want to return is, we're going to go ahead and return an object that has the evens and the odds. So let's log this. And you know what, I'm going to get those out of the way. All right, so now we've got this, this object with our evens and our odds. Thank you, filter. So that's how filter works. Now, the last one that I'm going to talk about is reduce. And I'll just comment that out too. Scroll down here so we got more space. All right, so reduce takes all of the elements in an array and just like reduces them down into a single value. So we're just squeezing it all together. I like this image down here with all these squares, and you've got an accumulator and then the current one that you're working with, and it just like pops them on top of each other, makes this cute little square flower thing. So how we're going to do this is we're going to continue to use our array, and I think I'll just move it down here. So, I mean, you guys know what it says. It's 1 through 10, but now we can see it. And we're going to just sum it all up, right? So we're taking like each of those numbers is one of these squares, and we're just taking them all, summing them together, reducing them into a single value. So let's do that with a function that I'm going to call summit, and it takes an array and it's going to return that array dot reduce. So we're reducing this array down, and the reduce method has an accumulator, which I might jump ahead a little bit, and I think you put it right here, right? So your accumulator is going to be dumping into this. This is your initial number, right? So we're starting with 0, and the accumulator is going to keep track of this as it like adds up. So, and then you have the current number that you're working with, because as you're like going through each one, remember you go from the first to the second to the third, and so this will take whatever current number that you're on and represent that. So here we're just going to return the accumulator plus the number. So it starts at this 0, right? And then you run the first number through it, 1, right? So this is 0, num is 1. Then you're going to return 0 plus 1, and this becomes 1. We're not going to do that because that will mess up what's going on, but I just want to illustrate. Then it runs 2. But this is, well, I'll just go ahead and keep illustrating. So this has become 1 now, and this is 2. So it's returning 1 plus 2, which would be 3. And then you take your third index. It's at index 2. If you guys remember that, it goes 0, 1, 2. I'm sure you do. And so we're taking 3. 3 is the next number. The accumulator is at 3, and the num is 3. So you're going to go 3 plus 3, and this becomes 6. So that's how reduce is working. Let's move it back to 0 and make sure we did it right. Let's see, summit and R. All right, there it is, 55. So I hope that makes a little bit more sense with reduce, filter, and map, and the differences between them. So hope that was helpful to you. I just wanted to make this short video and share that with you. So there you go.